And that is the most unique thing that we have as Gambians. Like, we interact with one another, we live with one another. It doesn't matter how big the family is. We share everything, no matter how little it is. And people are content with that. That even if things are going hard, you can still observe smiling faces under each and every person that you meet along the street. So that is a plus for everybody in the Gambia. And that is why I'm a proud Gambian and a proud African. And I believe I can make it. And I'm going nowhere but in the Gambia. Nobody is going to do it for us.
That's right.
If we are all running away, when are we going to make it? We have to stay in Africa, develop in Africa, and then show to the world that Africa have a better image than the one they... And that is the most unique thing that we have as Gambians. Like, we interact with one another, we live with one another. It doesn't matter how big the family is. We share everything, no matter how little it is. And people are content with that. That even if things are going hard, you can still observe smiling faces under each and every person that you meet along the street. So that is a plus for everybody in the Gambia. And that is why I'm a proud Gambian and a proud African. And I believe I can make it. And I'm going nowhere but in the Gambia. Nobody is going to do it for us.
That's right.
If we are all running away, when are we going to make it? We have to stay in Africa, develop in Africa, and then show to the world that Africa have a better image than the one they portray in the West. I think this is what we all need to do as Africans. And then we promote that as Pan-Africans and also as Gambians.
Excellent. I couldn't have said it better myself, actually. I propose that you come and do some shows with me. This brother's got it going on. Yeah. But seriously, I think that the misrepresentation of Africa has, it permeated my brain, and I knew because I was coming from a Pan-African background, but still, the images are forced upon us. So I think you young Gambians have a responsibility to show the other side of Gambia, the Gambia that, we diasporians and many people in the West don't see. They just don't see it.
Exactly. I think that is the work of the academics. That is the work that we need to do as young scholars. For far too long, people have been portraying Africa negatively to the outside world. And we know that that was done by individuals whose sole aim was to dominate Africa, to exploit Africa's resources, and then to continue to colonize us politically. Now, our role as academics, as young scholars, is how do we make sure that this picture is changed from the literature itself, going back to rewrite the books, to rewrite the history of Africa, and then to show to the world that we have a better image that the world is actually seeing as of today. And then you also come to realize that we need to invest in Africa, because foreign investment always leads to capital flies and etc. Because people who come in and invest, at the end they can take all the resources, and then you come to realize that it becomes another challenge for us. But when Africans invest, the money stays in Africa, which is a plus. It can enhance, it can help when it comes to employment, when it comes to coming up with all the facilities and then enhancing the development that we own, that we all desire as Africans and etc. I think that is what we need to do as we speak, and that is what we all Africans need to be thinking into that particular line, like trying to see how we can repent that particular picture shown by the outsiders about Africa. Because in fact, let me tell you, there was this quotation that I read. It was actually done by a British parliamentarian, Lord Macaulay, in 1835. He speaks about Africa, and then he said, in order for the West to dominate Africa, they need to overthrow our very backbone, and that is our education system. When we believe that everything that is Western is correct, then they can dominate us forever.
Exactly.
And that is 1835. They've been working on those bases. So today it is high time, because we know the realities. Let us try to rewrite the history. Let us try to work again and attract investment in Africa by Africans.
Speaking of the Japanese and the Chinese and how their models are actually successful, what are we getting wrong in Africa? Is it that we don't have the right education systems in place to shape the youth, or our governments are not providing enough enticements for Africans to stay in Africa?
Sure, I think, thank you. But All those things are fundamental issues that we need to discuss as Africans. And we have a poor education system. We have to attest to that.
Definitely.
And when we talk about how do our government keep track of individuals living the continent, you know, in so many cases, we do not have that motivation. Youths are not motivated to stay in the continent. They are not given that good atmosphere, that good environment for them to realize their own potentials within the continent. So at first, it starts with the education system. Let us talk about this. The education system that we have in Africa is not tailored by Africans. This education system is curriculums left behind by colonial masters whose main objective was exploitative in nature, dominance, and controlled. This education system is not fit for purpose. That is the reality. So what do we need to do now as young scholars, as Africans, is going back to the Pan-African spirit. What was Marcus Garvey calling for? What was B. Du Bois calling for? What was John Henry Clark calling for? What was, you know, we can talk about them, the sacrifice they've made for this continent, even with the fact that they were not born in the continent, but they just see themselves with their color, with their blood, as individuals who belong to us. We talked about Pan-Africanists who were within the continent, like Nkrumah. We can talk about, you know, so many of them, you know, like, you know, Julius Nyerere of Tanzania. We can talk about Gambians, Edward Francis Small, and etc. We can talk about the Nelson Mandelas and etc. We had like big generation of African leaders who stood up to fight against dominance, to fight against control. But the same battle that they were doing is still here. You've made mention of Thomas Sankara, for instance. You know, I look at him as... But first, we, the youths of Africa, have to start understanding each other. The fact that today, I, from the Gambia, is able to be with you in a conversation today to talk about the African matter all the way in East Africa is a wake-up call for the African youth that we should not allow to be disunited again. That we have a responsibility that if we create a genuine force among ourselves, we are going to put a stop to all the things that are happening which are not in the favor of Africa and Africans. These are things that we can do, but we have to organize ourselves. If you can pull an African outside from a forest with a gun, do so. When we venture into things that undermine the properties of other Africans, when we as Africans go fight, take lives of other Africans, it is still Africa that bleeds. And this is the central discussion that we have to get control of. Technology is being in support of us. Time is being in support of us. Today, some of the youths across Africa have understand the complexity and have understand the solutions that we can come up with better than most of the African leaders. These are the people that we should tap. And that is why it is important. If we have the means to travel, let us do it. If we have the means to use technology, advancement through platforms and etc., let us call the African to have a central discussion on moving Africa forward. And that is recognizing each other first as a brother and as a sister. When all of us recognize each other as Africans, as brothers and sisters, the paper doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter whether you're given a passport by a political system in Africa or not, because that is already there. But today, in the mind of so many young Africans, let us be realistic with this. Sometimes we are a cost to ourselves. You see some Africans who will openly tell you that they hate other societies in Africa. When are these individuals with that same mentality going to fight for the unification of the continent? You've called it out. How many leaders have stood here in Africa, called for the African unity, open up borders,